have a problem.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. This is your host, Vikka Draziv, guys. Welcome to the show. If you're watching us from YouTube, do comment, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. And if you're watching us from World Flat Earth Association group or Flat Earth Research Network group, do comment and tag your friends. And make sure you allow StreamYard to see your name. If no, we can see your comments, but we can't see your name. So welcome everyone there too. And finally, if you're watching us from realtruthseekers.com, rts.video, yes, realtruthseekers.com is one of our main sponsors for Heliopsychosis podcast and most of our coming productions. So make sure you guys check out realtruthseekers.com, rts.video. And yes, what an interesting show we have today too. Let's jump in with our co-host and panelist. My first co-host, Genie Edited. Everybody know him from our production team. Hey, how are you, Genie, brother?
Hey, Vikka. I'm doing great, brother. Thank you so much. I like to say to everybody out there right now who's listening that just missed it by like 1 minute, maybe 5 minutes, but yesterday was Vikka's birthday, so we're kind of celebrating that today. And I want to say, Vikka, happy birthday, brother. It's been awesome ride with you here doing this show and hanging out on the pages that you have and that I'm involved with, and all the people I've met through you and hanging out with you has been an awesome experience, bro. I learned so much in the past year. And this is like the real school for me. This is why I never liked school, because they weren't teaching me anything real. And you're my brother, dude. I love you, man. Happy birthday. And thank you very much for all you do for everybody in this community.
Thank you, brother Genie. Yes, as I said, we all grow together, so we all are growing together. And yeah, and today, 6th November, I completed 48 years on this realm. Yeah, and today I shared some images and a lot of love from everybody, from all our community, from the Flat Earth on Facebook. So yeah, big shout out to everybody. And thanks, Genie, brother.
Thank you too, man. You deserve it, bro. You put a lot of hours in. I've been saying for a long time, Vikka don't sleep.
Oh, yeah, brother. We all are doing our best.
Yeah. So welcome everybody. We got a great story to tell. You're going to see a lot of similarities in some of these stories that we go over, and a lot of speculation, and open to suggestions and input. And we have a great panel tonight. Thanks, guys, for being here. Eddie, I know it's also tomorrow for you. I'm still yesterday. I'm in the 6th right now, 6 o'clock in New York. Welcome, guys. It's really, really great to see you both, Eddie and Evelyn. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Oh yeah, our next panelist is also an author from 16 Emergency Landing Proving Flat Earth, an awesome flat earther, like nonstop, constant truth flat earther. Definitely also one of my favorite. Eddie Alankar, how are you, brother?
Hello, Vikka. Happy birthday again. I hope you got a birthday cake, a flat earth birthday cake. That's been the theme. Every time I have a birthday, I ask my wife to bake me a flat earth cake. So, hello, Jeannie. Hello, Evelyn. Nice to meet you. I want to say hello to Better Than Gold. We were watching this documentary made by these Australian guys. So, I went to bed really late last night. Here in Japan, it started at 10 p.m. And it's a great documentary as well. You know, if you want to check it out, I will be soon upload that to my channel. But there's a link there. It's called Heliosorcery. Excellent documentary. Worth checking it out. So hello, Evelyn. Nice to meet you. Hello, Jean. And happy birthday again, Vika.
Thank you, brother Eddie. Yeah, today actually somebody shared that documentary in our World Flat Earth Association group, so there is a link there. For sure, we're gonna check it out too. Thanks for being here, Eddie.
All
And
right, thank you.
and our final panelist for today is Evelyn. Evelyn, how are you?
Hello, Vika. Happy birthday, and nice to meet you, Eddie. And hello again, Jean. I'm looking forward to this interesting podcast today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Welcome, Evelyn. Yeah, so yeah, in the chat, it's Better Than Gold saying happy birthday. Thank you, Better Than Gold. Thank you, brother. And thank you, everybody, for being in the chat. And yes, Norse cosmology. So before we jump into it again, I'm gonna mention that we are not trying to push any religious faith or by discussing the topic, because if you guys have heard us from past few weeks, we are covering different cosmologies or faith, religion, whatever you want to call it. But for us, it's the creation story and where they live and what is their world is. So for that way of investigating and researching the topic, we have today Norse cosmology. And my, is it different from any other cosmology? So definitely there are similarities in comparison to other cosmologies, but it has its own version, and I think it's better than even a movie, if you want to call it, because the Norse. Yeah, the interesting part is like the North, the word North, the word Norway, the word Nordic, the word is there, right there, that it's North, it's connected to the North. We also known as the Norway is known as Norway because it's near the North too, or near the center, near the center of the earth. Yeah.
Norway, the way to the north.
Exactly. And closest to the north too, because it's almost, if it's way to the north, it's like almost near the center. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, very close to the Arctic Circle, indeed, yes. What I would like to see is some interaction from the viewers, maybe some questions and all that, so that we can also they can also contribute a bit to the chat, make us think a bit.
Yeah, somebody have to monitor the chat if there are questions. Yeah, because I'm.
Yeah, I've got my iPad, so I can see everybody there.
Okay, so if anybody have any questions in the chat regarding the topic of today, so please leave it, and we're gonna try to get back. Right. So before we jump into those the worlds of Norse cosmology, that is said to have a central tree, right? So if we are speaking about the north and center to the north, and the whole cosmology represents as a central tree with those roots and the branches being different worlds, right next to the center of the earth, or similar to all different cosmology, is quite interesting. The tree of life, or the tree. I don't know how to pronounce this. How is it, Evelyn?
Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil. All right. All right.
Yggdrasil is the name
Yggdrasil.
of the of the tree.
Exactly. And
it
yeah,
spreads from our Earth, and the roots go all the way down, and then the canopy of the tree encompasses the whole of the dome, so to speak. And in the branches, and the roots of the tree, you have the 9 realms in spread around.
exactly. Exactly. So before we jump into those 9 worlds, yeah, let's try to understand before, or these 9 realms, or these 9 planes, or these 9 levels. We'll try to understand what is the creation story, the real creation story about in the Norse cosmology, because it speaks about, like, before there was soil or sky or anything green, there was just a gapping abyss known as Gonago Gap, right? Like it's a darkness lay between
Yes,
the
a
homeland,
void.
yeah, a homeland of elemental fire, Muspelheim. So there's a part of fire that is called Muspelheim, and then there's another part of Muspelheim called frost. So you have the fire and the ice. So with time it starts getting closer to each other, and the ice begins to melt. And these droplets form the first ever giant called Amir. Okay, these droplets, and this giant himself was capable of reproducing asexually, and from his sweat underneath his arms formed 2 more giants. So it was kind of a first family of giants born because of these 2 things met, the fire and the ice. And then there was also a cow emerged from the ice, which was like for to nourish these giants. For in the return of the giants giving them the block of ice, to lick, more or less. It's a way. It's a tradition what speaks about this, right? How this family of giants were born, and like getting together, and getting reproducing, and out of them there was the Odin was born, the brother of Odin, and the Odin and the Willy, so all these other giants were born.
Interesting. Now, Vika, did you get that for any book? Because what I know about Nordic cosmology is really superficial. I never got that deep into it. But is there any book, or specifically only talking about that you would recommend to us?
Oh yeah, I could recommend. I could pass you some PDFs about with references and what are different kind, because there's also quite a misunderstanding, because people speak about two version, one version before pre-Christianity and one version after Christianity. So this also speak about a bit of manipulation in those scriptures. So there's another guy called Snorri. If you look up, also have few amazing stuff on Norse cosmology.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it seems the older version would be the one to pay a little more attention to, I would think.
Yeah, someone's asking if it's a history account or is it mythical? Well, I would say, we see it as mythical, but the Norse people, or the Norwegians and people in the north, they would say that it's their account of history. Just like in Greek and Crete, you would speak of all the mythological creatures there, but the people there who have who have learned this in school and from their own passed down history, passed down through how to say, the ancestors and all that. They would disagree that it's all mythology and say, no, this is our history. I mean, this is what happened. So it's a question.
Yeah, but it's because it's their faith, it's their belief, it's their creation story. It's for them is real. Comparison to any other cosmologies. For example, even in the Sumerians, they have that Tiamat and the giants, and they're fighting. They come from the abyss of the sea. So for them, for definitely, it was their creation story, it's their reality, or it's their way of putting. So every cosmology is being labeled mythology right now, every cosmology.
Exactly.
So what's really happening?
That's
because
exactly
it sounds too unbelievable that there could be a giant, that there could be a hybrid, that it could be this. So it's put in the mythological corner. So it's also for us to filter what was really myth, legends, and what was real.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's why it's their job to make sure that the people take it as a mythology and fantasy, because it sounds so unbelievable, it sounds so magical, it sounds so right.
preposterous almost. Couldn't be real. Otherworldly.
It sounds too incredible to be real. People don't have the capacity of imagining that some things really did happen.
Right. But they'll picture it on a different world in another galaxy. That's okay, but not here.
Yeah, they push all those aliens, those short guys, like 3 feet high and big head, black eyes, and spaceships traveling. They push all that stuff. That's real, but the giants that look like us, just a few feet higher.
Yeah.
And,
And same with dwarves and elves, and so it's the same thing. So
right.
Pretty amazing.
Hey, Rick, how are you, brother? Thanks for joining us. This is Rick from Ferret Radio Live and Free Earth Radio. He's also the producer of Hoodwink Show with Mark Hollander. Rick Lotek, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Vikka. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, you're a bit loud, but yeah, we hear you good.
Right. Let me fix that. Okay. How's that? Is that better?
That's too low.
Goldilocks zone.
You have to come in the Goldilocks zone. How are you doing, Rick?
Oh, I'm just loving life, enjoying it, and having a great time. Taking a couple of weeks off from work. not really a vacation, just kind of like an absence, if you know what I mean.
Awesome, bro. Awesome.
I
Yeah, I'm
was
glad
listening
you
to you guys.
join us. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm an Apache, and a Native American Apache, and I remember the stories that my grandfather told me about the Red Giants. And I know most of you have probably heard about the Red Giants. Um, the Giant of Kandahar, I believe, was a red giant. Giants found in caves, red giants, and so named because they have red hair. So the stories that my grandfather told me didn't come off the internet, didn't come out of the Smithsonian, didn't come off the newspaper. These stories are hundreds of years old. Just like the stories of giants. You know, the red giants, by all accounts, were real. And they used to come and they hunted man, trapped them, and ate them. Now, if you study history in any extent, you'll see that almost all ancient civilizations built fortresses to live in. They built them high on mountains. They built them in caves. They built them underground. There are huge underground complexes that whole civilizations were said to have lived in. We need to ask ourselves why. What were they hiding from? Well, what else? The giants, man. They were hiding from the giants. The people who built the Pueblos, the Pueblo Indians. Some of the Navajo built the Pueblos too, I believe. But they built these things to hide, to stay safe from the giants. Machu Picchu, for example. No, go ahead, Vikka, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say Machu Picchu is another example of how they built their civilizations high on mountaintops to stay safe from the giants.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because even the creation story of Norse mythology speaks exactly about that, and how these giants were formed, and how they separated these worlds. So, for example, the Midgard, where the human lives, is protected by things that these giants don't come and destroy us, literally.
Yeah.
It's speaking in the Norse cosmology about that.
So,
The
hey,
Norse,
Rick.
well, go ahead, Eddie, I'm sorry.
Hi. Okay. So, hello, Rick. First of all, hello. Nice
Yeah,
to talk
great
to
to
you
see you,
again.
Eddie.
Yeah. So, Vika, or Evelyn, or Jean, or even you, Rick, perhaps some of you could talk about Asgard, which was the Norse uh, city, I don't know, in the North Pole. So, which one of you could talk more about Asgard?
Anyone who wants to go? Evelyn, you want to go, or?
Yeah, well, I can start. Yeah. Asgard. What we know is that that was the home of the gods, and it was the highest one in the sky. And Odin was the ruler of Asgard, and
Yeah, it also speak about Bifrost. It's like a rainbow that connects Asgard to the
the rainbow.
Midgard. Yeah, a rainbow
Yeah,
bridge.
the
What
rainbow
about
bridge.
this new Asgard that everybody's talking about? It was actually given sovereignty here this last year. I remember reading something about that.
Yeah, it's been
Asgard,
back on the news. A lot of people have been talking about this Asgard, whatever. So that's why I'm
yeah,
asking.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the highest realms for the Norse mythology. So if we have different, like the heavenly realm in the Bible, or in the Vedas, we have the upper realm over the Brahma or the North Star. So there are different realms according to different cosmologies. So Asgard is supposed to be one of the higher realms, one of the higher realms, because we are not in the higher, we are in the middle. That's why it's called the Midgard for the humans, right?
Yeah, Middle Earth. It's in Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Yeah, Midgard and Asgard was connected via the Rainbow Bridge and Bifrost, and yeah, the Rainbow Bridge. That's why people say when somebody dies or an animal, they say that they've gone over the Rainbow Bridge. That's
Right.
saying that I see on Facebook coming up from people. So
You seem very knowledgeable about this. Do you know anything about Midgard?
Yeah, so the
I'm
Midgard is supposed to be where we are. We're
Right.
gonna go. We're gonna cover all the different 9 realms of the Norse mythology. But let's finish with the creation story, and then we're gonna continue with those different 9 realms. All right.
That sounds good.
Okay.
All
I
right.
find
So
that a fascinating topic is the creation story and the connection of giants.
exactly.
Yes.
So as I was mentioning about that the giant could reproduce and make more giants. So there was like a kind of revolution between few of the giants, like, because Asir was reproducing, and they were reproducing with different. So they were like just starting. For them, it was just the starting of their world. So Odin and his brother were concerned, like about concern that Asir was reproducing, and between their brother they decided to slay Amir. So they waited for the giant to sleep before they began their assault, and with their strength, the brothers were able to overpower and slay Amir, out of which his blood sprouted and formed the rivers. Okay, that's how it starts. And the blood drowned the other 2 giants. The surviving giants burgled, and between he and his wife, they fled to another land, misty land, known as Jotunheim. It's one of the realms, okay, one of the 9 realms called Jotunheim. So they escaped there, the world as we know it, in Norse mythology, like was created from the remains of Amir's body.
Yes.
So
Yes. The blood became the oceans, the rivers, and the lakes, and the
exactly,
the land.
flesh became the land. The flesh and became the land.
The bones became the mountains.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the teeth.
His hairs
the
his
teeth were
hairs
made
became the hair became the vegetation.
Right.
and the eyelashes became Midgard. So
Yeah, and the clouds became his brains, and his skull formed the sky. The whole hemisphere above us is like we are in the skull of this giant, and the whole earth we are living on is a dead giant. It's literally saying that in the Norse cosmology, and that how the blood are turning, his blood are or all the liquid rivers, and the mountains, the bones, the flesh, we see that. We see pareidolia in the mountains, literally, in the form of. Yeah, go ahead.
it sounds macabre.
There's a lot of strong suggestive evidence that points to geology as biology. We were talking about this earlier in the year.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember reading about veins of gold and veins of precious metals, and that was all supposed to be the remains of a giant, a decayed giant.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
picture.
In the Bible version, the Christian version, the giants were they slain each other because they were punished to not live more than 500 years, and then they would slay each other, and that's how the mountains came into being. You know, those are
Yeah.
the giants.
Yeah. The Bible doesn't mention the Olympics specifically, but it suggests
The Titans, yeah.
yeah,
Well, it doesn't mention the Titans specifically. You have to go to other texts, other old texts to work it all out. It's not in the Bible, literally. It only says giants in the days of Noah. There were giants, but
there is mention.
not.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's not mentioned literally. It's probably been taken out because the Bible was supposed to be more books, but we were only given this thin book to read. So you have to go to other books like the Book of Enoch. He goes deep into all the giant theme, and
Yeah, but the interesting part here is, Evelyn, is also this the whole creation story of Norse cosmology is also about giant. Yes, how the giant reproduced between themselves, and they fought, and they killed one, and that became the basis of the whole earth, and the whole body, or for example, is representing the whole earth in itself. So as I was mentioning about the skull, that being the sky, and according to that, their god created sparks inside those skulls, where is supposed to be the celestial sphere, and that became the stars. And then it's crazy. And it also speaks about the plains of Idaho that became the home of the gods away from the Jotunheim, that is one of the worlds. So like the giants were allowed to live. The god eventually formed the first man. They even created the first man and woman from a trunk of an ash tree, and these humans were to live in the Midgard, where we are living in the Middle Earth, and a fence was built around them to protect them from the giants of Jotunheim. And the dwarfs the elves were formed when there were worms, because the body started becoming to rot in a way, and the worms from these were the elves or the dwarfs. So even their god got worried about the giant's rotten body and thought that the sky is gonna fall. So he sent 4 dwarfs, one in each direction, to hold the sky. And these dwarfs were named after the cardinal directions: Nordi for the north, Soundly for the south, Vestri for the west, and Austria for the east. So it's the same as the 4 angels in the biblical scriptures, very similar. But here we have the elves or the dwarfs.
The dwarfs, yeah.
It's crazy, yeah.
That's amazing. Vikka, did the cow earlier in the story, did the cow lick the ice, right?
Yeah.
For nourishment, and did it expose another giant that was in the ice?
No, the cow was there so the giants could nourish from them. It was sent by the god through the ice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for an exchange for the ice to lick that ice.
I thought.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I thought I remember reading somewhere that it exposed another giant that was buried in the ice, but I could be mixing stories up. That's why I was asking.
Yes. What What I found
That's
out is
okay.
that the cow licked the ice, and the giant came from out of the ice.
Okay. There's something like that. It
Yeah.
reminded me of Antarctica, though, right away when I read that. You hear stories about stuff in Antarctica. The ice is melting, exposing all kinds of ancient artifacts. And
I found it. The man who had grown out of the salty rock was Budi, the first of the gods. He was a giant. And he
was a
the
giant
father.
to the giants? Is that what
Yeah,
that means? Right? So
it
he's
was
a
a giant.
big giant.
And he would have 3 sons. So he's the father of Odin, Vili, and Ve.
Exactly.
That was the one under the ice.
Exactly. And apart from those 4 dwarfs who went for the 4 directional, the rest made their homes on the ground. And there was a man who had 2 children, for example, so bright and luminous that he named them the Sol and Mani, which is the sun and the moon. So the gods were angered by the man's arrogance.
Vika,
So they took their place. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rick.
I'm sorry to cut in. I finally found something about Asgardia, or otherwise known as the Space Kingdom, lately, or it's also called the Space Nation. And it's actually a micronation, and it's been formed by a group of people who launched a satellite into Earth orbit, and they refer to themselves as Asgardians. They've given their satellite the name Asgardia, and they've declared sovereignty over space, over the space occupied by and contained within Asgardia 1. The Asgardians have adopted a constitution, and they intend to access outer space free of the control of existing nations and establish a permanent settlement on the moon by 2043.
Well, good luck there.
Sounds like NASA.
Yeah, it's a group of citizens now. This has got nothing to do with nations.
Yeah, but Rick, yeah. What do these people think, that is someplace out of this world, apart from the Earth, or what is their concept about Asgard? Because if they're connecting it with NASA and space and satellite, definitely it's not on this Earth, right? For them.
That's right. Their nation is whatever Asgardia 1 occupies, the spacecraft, and the other 2 satellites launched in 17. They were launched in 2017, I guess. So what they're looking to do is to establish the first nation to have all its territory in space. Take that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a lot of good ideas, but
Yeah, they're doing the same trickery. They just take the real stuff like this that has connection to the truth, like with ancients, and they try to wrap it around in their spacecraft. The same thing with Star Trek and Star Wars and Pandora and Avatar. And it's the same thing. They just try to wrap it up and put it in their space.
that's why it
BS,
looks. That's
yeah.
why it looks civilian.
Now they're recognized under the Outer Space Treaty of 1967 to be an international community. And they're described as a province of all mankind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and the best part is they don't have anything. Yeah, the best part is they don't have anything original. Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, that's why it attracts people, because there is some truth to it. So,
Right, exactly. That's what they did. They sprinkle a little truth on a bunch of garbage.
Yep.
Looks great. Sell it.
Yep.
Some people buy it. They switch the story for the people who won't. Blah blah blah.
They'll be using cryptocurrency as their international currency. It sounds to me
Hope
like a
not.
bunch of speculators who want to. You remember when the .com craze kicked off? Everybody went out and bought up all these domain names, especially for big corporations because they were entrepreneurs. These people sound to me like a bunch of entrepreneurs who are trying to lay claim to a segment of space for monetary gain. That's how it strikes me. So they're entrepreneurs. They're not necessarily spacefaring people.
Nah, because once you really look into it, somewhere, even if you're not looking into what we're doing, the story has to fall apart for you.
Yeah.
You can't be really doing these things.
Well, the Treaty of 1967 says they can. It's called the OST, the Outer Space Treaty, which I was heretofore unaware of. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't know about such a thing.
Nah, I never heard of it. Outer space. Is that like the Antarctica Treaty bumped up on steroids?
Obviously, yeah. Obviously, it's the same thing. And it includes the moon and other astronomical objects. They're actually laying sovereignty to a portion of the moon. Check that out.
Yeah. There is where they are screwing it up, because
Really?
because maybe many people buy it, many buy it, but some would just go away because of that moon thing. You say, oh, moon, oh. Yeah.
So what are they? There's no more land in Florida for sale?
Yeah, right. Instead of the dollar, they're calling their cryptocurrency the solar.
Oh, so that's what they're doing. They're pushing crypto.
Yeah, they're just
The
pushing
worst
crypto.
thing. That's almost as bad as when we gave up our food.
Yeah.
Yep, if not worse. Yeah, they get crypto in their hands. That's game over.
Oh yeah, it's definitely coming, guys. But yeah, this is not our topic for today. Yeah, so what I also wanted to mention that the Norse cosmology creation is one that has many conceptual meaning behind it. Like one of the most prominent being that the life comes from death. Like the world was not created from nothing, as it was in the Judeo-Christian cosmology, rather than the God create in the world, they first had to slay the giant Amir, who in the case represents the primal chaos, as he can reproduce the Amir's kin, and the giants, and they could literally destroy this realm. It's one of the reasons. Yeah, go ahead.
I keep interrupting, going off topic. I apologize for that. Let me play 30 seconds of the national anthem of Asgardia, if I may. This is 30 seconds.
We can't hear it, bro. You cannot play. We
I'm
can't
sorry,
hear
I
it.
didn't know that. Okay. Let me say one thing about Norse mythology. There was supposed to be one of my family members a while back did a gene search in the family, and it came back that there was there was a connection with the Norse. So, among other things, I guess I'm a Heinz 57. I've got Norse in me too, which is really cool. I think that's something to be proud of.
That is cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Got old roots, brother.
Yeah, we were trying to locate what tribe I'm from. See, my grandfather left the tribe when he was a little boy and never went back, so we had no connection with any tribes. We're just Apache. It's a fascinating story. He was dragged away from the reservation as a boy. You probably heard these stories about Native American men or young boys being dragged back east and sent to school and taught to forget their native roots and their language. My grandfather was a victim of all that.
There are also some things about the Vikings discovering also the Americas even before Columbus. There are some stuff, so definitely there has to be, a mix or a connection. Yeah,
They found ruins in Massachusetts or Maine or something like that looked Viking.
exactly. So there have to be some connection and some mixes there too. Quite possible, because if we
look how close they were too, though. So, and these guys were seafaring men. That's what they were into. So to think that they didn't get here is a little crazy. And we also have the American Stonehenge too, that they think is it's definitely pre-Columbian, and it doesn't look Native American either. They think it might be Viking.
Yeah,
cool place.
If you look at the flat Earth map, it's quite easy to trace from the Viking lands from Northern Europe. You would sail almost
cross a little bit around Arctic, and it's already in Canada. Yeah.
And then you're in Greenland there. Yeah. And then Greenland, Canada, and then Canada, Alaska. You have all those countries there. Alaska with the indigenous people also there.
Except for the elements, you got to deal with it. It doesn't seem very far for these people. Look what they built. They built buildings that way they couldn't sail around.
Yeah. And maybe you could also walk across from Russia.
The Bering Strait, right?
And it's frozen in the winter.
Right.
So you don't even need a boat.
Oh yeah. Also in the Norse cosmology, it speaks about the rivers. Some river froze and some river doesn't froze because no people can get there, or no giants can come here. They also speak about these oceans and seas being so vast is that we could never even think about reaching there, about to this where the other lands, if it's on this realm, according to some of the Norse cosmology.
Hey, Vikka, how about that there is like a whirlpool around that area that no ships can actually get to there because it gets through this giant whirlpool that takes boats to the deep, So I also heard that. Yeah, go ahead, Vic.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just saying that's the Pillars of Hercules, I believe, that you're talking about.
Yeah, because you can't reach those lands because of this giant whirlpool.
This one, Eddie, is about in the north. We did one podcast about that in the north, Hyperborea. So in the Hyperborea, it's supposed to be in the north, where this whirlpool is supposed to be at the central part, where it forms a whirlpool, and all the ships and the nails get pulled over it, and they cannot go away from it. This is more near Hyperborea in the center. That's supposed to be the land. Yeah, and in here we are speaking about that these distances of these oceans are so huge because that's the reason, is that nobody could go, and there are supposed to be also giants which won't allow us to cross these oceans and seas, right? So it's also the Norse cosmology speaks about that.
Okay.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is about the tree, right? Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil. Now I pronounce it correctly, right, Evelyn? Yeah, it's supposed to be the axis which unites the three levels and the 9 worlds, is the world tree, like the Yggdrasil. It's an ash tree with no known beginning and no known end. You know, it's so huge that it runs between realms. You know, the central trunk of the tree is supposed to be the central column in a way, which makes it accessible to different worlds through the branches, right? You know, it survives Ragnarok. You know, the tree has three roots, one in Asgard, and under this root is the well of Ur, is one of, you know, guarded by the three Norns. Like here, the god meets in a council every day. You know, the second root is in Jotunheim, what we spoke about before with the giants, next to the spring of Mimir, whose water are a source of wisdom. And Odin drank from the spring of Mimir at the cost of one of his eyes, you know. And the third root descends to Niflheim, next to the spring of Vergelmir, the source of 11 rivers. So imagine the Yggdrasil sustains many animals which live in and near the tree. The serpent lives near the springs. You know, the roots of Yggdrasil, the deer, the goats, you know, they live in the branches who eat the tender young shoots of the tree. On the topmost branches sits an eagle with a hawk perched between its eyes. Ratatosk, the squirrel, runs up and down the trunk carrying insults from the serpent at the roots to the eagle at the top. It's a way of describing the world through pictures, through with animals, with trees, with the branches, the roots. It's amazing.
Really is amazing. They understood that life is cyclical and subject to change, but never ending.
Cyclical or secular?
Cyclical, like cycle.
Cyclical. Okay, that's what I.
You know, yeah, and the never ending.
Yeah. That's what astrology is based on, repetition.
Sure.
Cyclical.
Yeah, it's all in big and small cycles within each other. It's pretty cool. We talk a lot about that, how important, you know, we're looking at stars on TV, why we should be looking at the stars in the sky, how important it is to certain organizations. Thank you. And it's true, though, bro. You know, they got us looking at garbage, man. It's a shame.
They got us so that we don't know what's up or down, left or right. We only know what they've told us, and you know, it's an amazing world out there. If they would just
yeah.
I had a person in one of my groups tell me just today that the reason for all the moon landings, or no, not the moon landing, the explosion of Challenger, was because it pushed back all of the exploration and the study and the research. It pushed it back so they have more time.
Sure, they had to delay it.
Yeah, they had to delay it.
Right.
And that's what's going on. All these places, the Asgards and everything, they're myths, but they're all. I believe that a lot of myth is based on reality.
Yeah, the truth is stranger than fiction.
Yes.
It is, and you know, because you know, I give it more credit because when you see it in Hollywood now, like I don't like Hollywood, but I gotta kind of watch what they do because they are telling us truth in these stories.
Yeah,
You
hide
know?
in plain sight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Call it a
Good
myth.
example
Well,
of that is
look what
the name Hollywood, which is
yeah, the holy
Hollywood.
stick. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hide
right. Exactly. And look who, Hugh Hefner was the one who bought the sign and fixed it up, and that whole entire genre is just horrible. Anything from television, as far as I'm concerned. When
that's
you
true, but the thing is, you're talking about psyops here, and you got to bleed them for information.
yeah,
So
and
I found you do got to watch them things lightly. Don't let them absorb into you. Yeah.
I've been trying. I stopped watching this stuff a long time ago. It's hard to get back into. I just get antsy, fidgety, and aggravated. Kind of. I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah,
Even when I,
it's just keeping the people in the loop with their crap. Nothing is happening. We know. Yeah, it's just to entertain the people and just like in a hope of some time they're gonna achieve something, but with
I
all
want to go to
their
Mars.
own fantasy. So anyway, guys. So I wanted to finish it up with the Yggdrasil tree. So this Yggdrasil tree, even after a lot of abuse, it receives, it is sustained by Norns, and they draw water from the well, which is supposed to be below, and be sprinkled the ashes so that its branches will never wither or decay. The tree drips dew so sweet that the bees use it for making honey. And the Yggdrasil like also provides shelter at Ragnarok for the only man and woman to survive, the flood. You know, the Great Wall Tree is eternal and everlasting. So it literally is describing the whole central tree and how it's connected and how it's working and how it takes its water and how it's manifested in all different worlds, of Norse cosmology. And as we spoke about also about Bifrost, is also referred to as a rainbow bridge, as we mentioned before, that it connects the Asgard, and the Midgard. So there are connections.
Yes, it's described here also that Midgard is surrounded by a huge ocean that is impassable. So
Exactly, as I
and
was mentioning before, that they are so
yeah,
huge. That's the reason, because they don't want these
hmm
giants to come and destroy, or we
yeah,
going there.
yeah, and the ocean, there's a huge sea serpent in the ocean.
Exactly. It's for that reason that nobody tries to go there.
Atlantis, central ring.
Is
Yeah.
that the Leviathan?
um, maybe Leviathan. And
That was a sea creature, I think.
the Leviathan.
Oh.
Yeah, Leviathan. Yeah, it could be. It could be the same.
Leviathan's in the Bible.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
But the Leviathan was God actually killed it because it would have devoured the whole earth. So
Right.
Yeah,
he killed
the
it.
account was that if you even looked upon it, you'd die of
Yeah.
shock because it was so hideous.
Yeah.
Wow.
And supposedly this huge serpent is encircling the whole world. So what
No one can
Worldwide.
get through it.
The World Wide Web.
would
Well,
we would
they're
see as
describing
the
us.
Antarctic?
I think they're describing us, our concentric rings that we're hemmed in by concentric rings, and Midgardia is supposed to be us, right?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Anyway, guys, we're gonna be taking a short break here, and it's a quite interesting topic, so we will be right back. I just wanted to say that Alan Nostrand, Effie Nation, and Rachel Everson are wishing me happy birthday. So thank you very much, Effie Nation, Alan Nostrand, and Rachel Everson. Thank you. We'll be right back after a break, guys.
Let me say
Sorry?
hello to Michelle too. I just want to say hello, Michelle. That's all.
All right.
Maybe I mispronounced her name. I thought it was Rochelle, but if it's Rachel, I apologize. Hello.
Awesome.
She's one of our regulars too on the channel.
So we'll be right back, guys, in a couple of minutes.
My name is Joshua Silva. I am a licensed commercial pilot and flight instructor. I have had a lifelong love of aviation and aerospace, and when growing up I even fancied myself an amateur astronomer.
Number one, I'm a pilot, and when I used to fly out of Long Island towards Nantucket, bottom line here is they're going to give you some type of formula for every 100 miles. They're going to give you some type of XYZ per kilometer squared.
Been in aviation for 21 years. Anything from helicopters to aerostats to big birds, little birds, fighter jets, things with engines, no engines, big blades, little blades, compressor blades.
I woke up to the truth of the flat earth, shape of the earth, as an engineer and a pilot.
I'm a merchant marine. I've been sailing 15 years. I graduated from the Paul Hall Maritime Center out of Piney Point, Maryland. I primarily sail on container ships, tankers, drill ships, military cargo vessels. You name it, I can sail on it.
Work experience. I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old. I had a secret security clearance. There's different levels of security clearance. There's a lower level, then there's a secret, which is what I had.
I'll be providing my in-depth experience of U.S. Navy submarines and how they prove we do not live on a globe Earth. However, due to the nature of my job and the security clearance that I hold, I wish to remain anonymous.
Hey, welcome back, guys, to the show. We've got Jeannie, we've got Eddie, we've got Evelyn and Rick Lotek with us. I'm going to give a quick shout out to the people in the chat. There is Stephanie Campbell, there's Dr. Frankenstein, Ivica Kostic, Tommy Rogers, then there is Jay Daddy, Better Than Gold. Then there is the True Knowledge. Hey, brother, how are you? And then thanks, Dr. Frankenstein, for the birthday wish. Then there is a few people from Facebook. Then there's Rachel Everson. Then there is Effie Nation, Ellen Nostrand. And there is Cover to Cover with Jeremy Pierce. And there is Lechla. More people from Facebook. Yep. And J Daddy was mentioning. J Daddy says that's why the Norse, Celts, and all Indo-Europeans were so in touch with the Mother Nature. All of the pre-Christian cultures were. Exactly.
Pagan.
Exactly.
Sir.
They all, they're all pagans, and I'm not saying that to damn anybody. My roots are pagan too, but the nature of paganism is that they worship roots. They worship trees. They worship waterfalls, birds, the sky, the sun, the moon. They worship everything but the Creator.
No,
So
it's nothing like that. They don't create. I think it's not like that. That they don't worship the creator because they are actually like in a way. Paganism is a way of saying, it's not a right word even to call paganism. People who respect nature or value the elements that exist here, which is important for coexistence. How can one person respect the nature and won't respect the creator of that nature? I think it's a misinformation right there. Okay, because I don't think that people who do that in that way and they find that importance of every element and every living thing and every organism that is important for our function, being it the sun, moon, stars, the planet, the water, the seas, the mountain, the animals, everything.
now,
And if they love it, yeah,
is that
go ahead.
is that a subjective opinion or is that objectivity that you just spoke there?
No, because I have looked into many different cosmologies, and even if we are speaking about the Native American cosmologies or anything connected to that too, I know a lot about how they perceive their world and how is their religious practice or seeing the world, and they do also believe in the great mystery they call it. Why not? Right, the great unknown, the Wakantanka, according to the Lakota cosmology or the Lakota tribe, right? What we would call them paganism. How? Because their commandments are very similar to any other commandments, right? So it's yeah.
The Apache don't have anything that you would call kind or gentle about them. The Apache believe that there are certain forms of cannibalism, and when I say that, I mean they will actually they ate the hearts of warriors that died in battle to them. So, and the belief there was that you are actually absorbing the strength of your enemy. And also, we believe that if you make an enemy die horribly and painfully, I'm not making this up now.
Yeah, brother, but a tribe surviving in nature, the mother nature is very cruel, okay? Apart from the cities, if we go into real outbacks in real nature, how people really survive, even to get their food, they have to hunt, they have to climb, they have to swim, they have to put themselves in danger with other animals. So in that time, during those times, and even in these times, really where the people are not reached, there are tribes which literally survive, that they are when we totally like hunter and gatherer, and there is that were times where they could have practiced. So some of this practice do come and reach us, and like, oh, we call them, oh, these guys were killer. But every civilization, every culture have their own part of their dark part in a way, right? Maybe it was to defend themselves, or maybe even we have the Mexican, the Quetzal, they had their own sacrifices and all that stuff. So we all humans had in our ancient cultures and our different ways of life with according to that times, right? So we can't really label that these people were cruel, because cruelty is in every race, in every human being, right? No one is a saint, right?
The
So
act itself is cruel, I guess. I mean, so I see your point, but the thing is, pagans also worship polytheism, and that's what. Well, you mentioned earlier having a respect for nature. Now that's different between worshiping a waterfall as a god. You see, that's polytheism that they're practicing there. So when I say paganism, I don't mean to down on anybody or put them down. I'm trying to describe the belief of polytheism to begin with. The belief, what my grandfather always called the old way, the old ways, following paganism, is what the old ways were. Freedom to choose, freedom to choose. So I don't mean to impart upon anybody's freedoms and to choose my.
Yeah, brother. The Abrahamic religion is what demonized the rest of these beliefs, because according to them it's plagiarism or blasphemy or idolatry, right? But we all are humans, brother. We all are humans, and everybody are in their rights to see the world how they do. Because you come from a background of Apaches and Native Americans, you think they were not in their right to practice their way of living?
Oh, no,
or it's affecting you or anybody else belief of your God, or does it?
No, not at all, because I believe that just going away from that religion or from polytheism means practicing worshiping the Creator. And if you're going to do that, you have to follow his rule, his will, which is just like any God that any kind of God, whether it's real or not. If you're going to practice, following him, you have to follow his rule. And the Creator of all things is no different. So I don't believe that people should be condemned for the things that they did and the way that they are. What makes it sinful is what's in your mind, isn't it? It's not your actions. I mean, for thousands of years, men have been trying to action themselves into heaven, and we know that can't possibly work. You have to
Exactly, brother Rick. But this could be a whole topic in itself that we could speak about. That even these Abrahamic religions have their connections to all these ancient religions. Okay, it's very clear, but we are not going there tonight. So let's continue. You wanted to know something about Asgard, right? Yeah. So as we spoke, Asgard was supposed to be a home for Odin, and those who later be his kin. Odin, Vili, Ve, and became separated from the two tribes of God, So Asgard was a home for Aesir, and the 9 worlds are located on these 3 different levels of tiers. The top tier is the home to Asgard. The Asgard is above us, the heavens, most, if not like all of Aesir's have like a large hall located in Asgard in which they live. The most famous of these halls is called the Valhalla, the hall of the slain, like the Odin's hall, where half of his slain in battle like spend their afterlife. Like Asgard, as I mentioned before, is connected to Midgard by Bifrost, by the Rainbow Bridge, as I mentioned before. Yeah, like it is by access of this bridge that the gods, and in some rare cases men, in some rare cases men can travel between the 2 worlds. It is said that the other such bridges connect Asgard to other world. Like it is. Yeah, go ahead.
It's reminding me of Enoch for a second. Didn't Enoch go into a different world, taken by God to heaven, something like that?
Exactly. It's because it's no different, brother. It's their way of their version of explaining their world, their creation story.
Cool.
And it's go ahead.
No, I see the similarities are really awesome. I love it. It's really, really cool.
Exactly, and also like it is said that the sun always shines in Asgard. And it's the weather is always fair, other than when Thor is angry. So it's very similar also to, for example, in Vedic part. The Mount Meru part is where the sun never sets. It's very similar, in a way.
Sure is. And these are places we're not allowed to go to, isn't it?
Exactly. And also, like it mentions, there are miles upon miles of green fields and forest. It's like is how it mentioned in different cosmologies are also about different worlds, and also near the Mount Meru. Like the ruler of the Asgard is, of course, the father of Odin. Like every day, Odin and Azir hold a council, like not only for the governance of Asgard, but for the 9 worlds as well. And the next after Asgard is supposed to be Midgard. The name Midgard says like middle enclosure. That's the real meaning. Middle enclosure, like we are enclosed. Has a double meaning.
Well, a guard would describe that, right? Being guarded by something.
Exactly.
Right, and that makes sense. Wow.
There's another.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's another one called Alfheim, and that was the home of the light elves. And that one is supposed to be right next to Asgard in heaven. The light elves are supposed to be they're considered the guardian angels.
So we're talking about giants and elves. Like what? I'm thinking an elf could be the size of a giant, though. Right? As an elf. What like so I'm wondering what size they are to us, right? What if an elf and a giant was standing right here? Where would I be in between them, right?
I would.
You know what I mean? Just a question. I don't
know. That's something that we can't really know.
I guess.
I mean, if indeed these light elves.
Because
considered to be guardian angels, then you would expect them to be a bit bigger, but you never know. Never seen one, so.
No, because it just reminds me of outer space, and what we would call outer space is just other lands, and the size of it is just incredible. Really hard to picture how vast picture space.
Exactly, because here, Jeannie, that's the interesting part, right? Because the Earth cannot be a globe, and the space, according to this explanation too, because here it's saying, like also in the Norse cosmology, like the God gave the world its initial shape. They slew, like they slew the giant Ymir and created the various body parts, and in order to protect the Midgard and the humanity from the giant, they built a fence around Midgard out of the Emir's eyebrow, how Evelyn was mentioning before, like building fences around, around. It's crazy.
It is. So the size comparison just goes through my mind, and it's crazy. The size of people and what we're talking about, the size of where we are.
Exactly, and they're as we spoke before, like when they started from these two, the fire and the ice, and how these giants became, and how they inbred by themselves, and it's crazy.
Wow, man, that's incredible. And then you got to put it into modern terms of what we think of what's going on now. Because, think about it. If it really is a story that they know, they're just playing the story out. And that's what they're doing. That's why the sky is so important to them. And we know this. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then there's also Niflheim. Pronounced Niflheim. The word Nephilim is right there.
What does that remind you of?
right?
Yes.
It's the
Yeah,
name of the world.
it's right there. I thought that was crazy. I was going to bring that up too. I'm like, I have to because that's what I do. But I don't care if you think I'm crazy. It's right there, guys. Right? Right.
Yeah. Niflheim.
Exactly, because it's also, it mentions in a way that there are giants living there too, like Niflheim, you know. And then, yeah, it mentioned world of ice, you know, with rivers.
Yeah, and hiding and separating, like us from them from us, both, over and over. And I know I've mentioned it, but if you guys watch movies, a great giant movie was Jack the Giant Slayer. I thought that was very interesting.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
I saw that.
this whole
I saw
Norse
that one.
cosmology. Yeah, go ahead,
Oh,
Evelyn.
sorry. No, just gonna say that I saw that one a long time ago, so I hardly know what it. I can't
Do you
remember it
remember
anymore.
watching it?
But
Did you like it?
yeah, I love those kind of movies. So I mean, I watched the Thor movie Ragnarok today, just before coming on the podcast. So
So you are all full in, yeah. Oh yeah, as we mentioned, you know, these people don't have anything original. They have to take
No.
all this ancient knowledge and put it right there, you know, in the face, as if, you know, they are creating these characters, you know, and they're so smart, you know, and they're so intelligent, you know, they could make up such awesome stuff. Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. So it also speaks about this one of the world called Jotunheim, you know, it's one of the world with hostile giants, Jotunheim. So we have to be away from Jotunheim, you know. And there are many other scriptures which speaks about also some races living in the north. When we were speaking about the Hyperborea, you know, that how this Gog and Magog race has been separated from us, and if this wall breaks too, they could get here and destroy most of us, the humanity, in a way. Yeah, it's said in a different way, but it's saying the same thing, you know. So why and there gonna be truth, you know, some truth there.
You know, Vic, it reminded me of when I had to chase a chipmunk around my house for a day and a half. I felt like a giant, and how something that small could get away from a giant. Possibly, I just moved too slow. I had him, and I was so afraid. I had a hard time sleeping. I have 2 cats, and a chipmunk stuck in my house because I feed them. It's horrible, but I got him out. You know how I got him out? After a day and a half. Check this out, guys. After a day and a half, I was just so panicked. I was bugging out, and I was like, "What am I gonna do?" And something told me, "Go talk to your tree buddies outside." And there's a spot I hang out with. I've been watching these trees grow since I'd moved here, and I asked them, I'm like, "Please, you guys got to help me." And I went in, and within an hour, I had that chipmunk in my hand, and I let him outside the house. So I don't know. It's a cool story, but true story. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Oh yeah.
See, trees are talking to us. You guys got to listen.
There's an analogy of the way a tree grows, with half of its life above on the earth and half of its life below the earth. And
Cool.
yeah, that indicates the life cycle. So there's half that's seen and half that's unseen.
Oh yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
awesome.
The tree of life. That's the thing, you know. Like normally, trees are supposed to be the same size, the roots, as the height of the tree. Normally, you know. So
Right.
if we are speaking about these huge trees, imagine the caves that would have had because of those roots. And this could have been as one of the ways, because of the routes taken by some of the races for accessing other worlds. Yeah, so it's quite possible if you're speaking about. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Devil's Tower? And I think it's Wyoming.
Yeah, I've seen some images. Yeah, it's quite awesome. Yeah.
They think it's an ancient tree trunk. Science tells us that it's the throat of an old volcano, and all that was lava.
Everything's a volcano.
Yeah, everything's a volcano. But this is supposed to be an old tree trunk.
Right.
Petrified.
Cut down also.
Yes, cut. By what? I could cut that.
Right. And it could make sense because you see the stump after the tree's long gone.
Yeah.
So it could very well make sense. And picture it. Picture a tree like so far away that nobody goes to anymore because it's just too far off anybody's beaten path. Right. So that's where we could live right now. We're just so far. Nobody, things just don't go here anymore. It's too far from everything else.
Gene, let me ask you this, buddy. This is just a philosophical question. Tree falls in the woods and there's no one around to hear it. Does it make a sound?
Is that the question?
That's the question.
Oh yeah. I don't. No, it vibrates, and if there's nothing there to change the vibration into audio, it doesn't make any noise, right?
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
I don't know though.
How about Ms. Evelyn? What do you think?
Well, it probably makes a noise, but we're not there to hear it, so who cares?
There you go.
I
like to think positive. I think it definitely makes a noise because the vibration is there, like you said. So I think it does make a noise. How about you, Vikka?
About?
Does it make a sound if there's no one there to hear it? The tree falling in the woods.
Maybe.
That's a tough one. It's just a philosophical question. That's all.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we spoke about Jotunheim also, right? That Jotunheim is ruled by Thyrum, the feared king of the frost giant, stronghold of the Utgard, like the chief city of the Jotunheim and the abode of the giants is ruled by the giant Utgard Loki. So these are supposed to be their different gods and giants which live in these different worlds, Like, and in the Eddas is supposed to be the scriptures of the Norse. The dwelling places of the giants are described as deep, dark forest, mountain peaks, where winter never eases its grip, and similarly inhospitable and grim landscapes. And this certainly seems to be how, like, heathen, the Norse, and other Germanic people literally symbolize, symbolically visualize the Jotunheim, And then there was, as we spoke about, there was Niflheim also, like according to the Norse myth or cosmology. In the beginning, there were like three things, for lack of better word, like two worlds, like emptiness. We spoke about that before too, how this met and how the whole world was created. And also about the hell, they have this belief of hell, that it's exist here. It's one of the realm, under realm. It's supposed to be that's why it's called that. The people need to pass that. Like every soul needs to pass from that. And they have this different belief other than the Abrahamic religion about the hell, going later to hell. But in literally according to the Norse mythology, the hell is here. It's just under, but it's here. And I have my own. Yeah, go ahead.
The Apache have a similar belief that hell is here. And in order to get out of hell, you have to live a righteous life. It's kind of like a flip-flop of the Hebrews.
Exactly. The hell and heaven is here, right?
Yes.
Actually, it's what you make of it, right? The life, what you make of it. So we don't literally don't need to die to be in hell or heaven, But anyway, my take would be that this also, why, we humans, or we beings, or we souls, whatever we want to call it, every soul has this journey from the time it's born from the creator, the great spirit, if you want to call it, or the creator, or whatever name you want to call it. We are part of that great spirit in a form of souls, that we come into this manifested world, and we have these different levels and different. It's like we are on different levels when from the start when we come from above, we go through all these worlds until we reach the lowest vibrations of the world, where is the lowest part. Maybe we could call it the hell. So our soul is literally having different life and experiencing it till from the birth to all the way to the lowest world, and again back its journey to where it began, to its creator, to its great spirit, right? So the further away we are from the light, we are in hell, and the closer we are going to the light, we are in heaven. So everything, it's a part of evolution. Every soul that needs to get through that, this world is being manifested, like everything that we experience, everybody, we as a collective consciousness, we as every individual too. That's why we have life experiences and things that which makes us feel, this doesn't look like it's the first time, we are here, so yeah, it's just my take, so go ahead.
There is a saying that hell is more spiritual than physical. It's more a state of being than a place. Hell has been described as being away from Jesus, where you can see that Jesus is real and you accept it, but you can no longer reach him. That's hell. I mean, that's just another take on it. It's just another description I heard of it once upon a time.
Awesome, brother. So yeah, we see that it's not any different. The Norse cosmology is not any different from any other cosmology. There are some variations of explaining, but their world is very similar to, it's representing as a tree, because the importance of that North Pole and that central is as in other cosmologies too, as we have seen. Here it's representing the whole tree, and it's telling you literally the meaning of the whole tree and how it's connecting to the different worlds and realms, and how it's accessible to one another, all these beings, or depending on their own individual evolution of mind and body and spirit, and and everything in between. So I also wanted to speak about the eclipses in the Norse cosmology. It's called, they are called the sky wolves, called Skoll and Hati, in Norse eclipses. They say there are mentions in. Oops, I'm getting an echo. Yeah. So we also heard about the creation story of the sun and the moon. Like the soul and because in the Edda, one of the collections of the old Norse poem, there's a narrative that supports some of the folklore rituals that accompanies an eclipse, like the sun and the moons are personified by the figure of Sol and her brother Mani, two figures that move through the sky each day. So, and Mundeli Fairy is he who begot the moon and fathered the flaming sun, the round of the heaven each day, and they run. And also it's like the soul is charted through the sky in a chariot. It's very similar to the Vedic representation of the sun and the moon, because in the Vedic too it speaks about the sun like as a chariot. Definitely there has to be in few other ones too. Yeah, so here it's more or less, it speaks about, it's mentioned as like, how the skull or these wolves are trying to destroy the sun and the moon, and that's how the eclipse happened. It's a way of representing in a cosmological way of trying to explain the eclipses.
The raccoon Ketu.
Exactly.
Hey, Vikka.
Yeah.
I just want to add something there. Unfortunately, a lot of things that we have gotten, it's just like a small percentage. For example, when the Portuguese went to India, they confiscated all their sacred books and brought to the Vatican. So what we know from India is just like a particle. And the same thing, I believe, when they reached the north, those lands, Norway, all the good stuff is probably in the Vatican, the libraries in the Vatican. So what we know is
yeah.
probably just a percentage, unfortunately, all those stories of giants, the trolls. I mean, I wish, we could sack that library in the Vatican, get all those sacred books, Yeah, storm that and get all those, because they got everything, man.
And I think most what is survived is because of the stories the ancients shared with their generation, and they cannot steal the stories from their mind. That's why that is still maybe available to us, or for example, also the Vedic texts are many are how you say by heart by people. People like literally know it by memories. So nobody can really some stuff, not everything, but so yeah, definitely that's the reason there are some things survive for definitely in the Japanese culture, the Chinese or the Buddhist or or the Navajos or the Apache or the Lakotas or or the Nordics or the all the way south, so all this they have their own thing in their folklore, in their culture, in their stories, sharing through generations, and that's why we have those outline structure of every story, even with the Sumerians, and it's crazy. Yeah, the similarities are amazing, different versions, but they're very, very, yeah, same. Yeah, amazing. I love it too. Yeah, Norse cosmology. Literally, a movie could be made out of it, with their giant stuff and how it happened, and they are making, with their Ragnarok and all these Thor and all this stuff, but the whole creation story, and it's crazy, amazing.
Vika,
go ahead.
Could I answer a question that was put? I believe it was put to something I said from the chat. It says, "If you accept Jesus, why would there be an inability to reach Jesus?" I'm talking about. Oh boy, here I can't even quote where the scripture is, but it talks about a rich man who spoke to one of the saints. He had died, and he wanted one of the saints to warn his brother because they had lived a life of being, rich and destroying and taking what they wanted, and living an ungodly life. So he wanted the saint to tell his brother to warn him that not to be that way and not to continue on that way because he would suffer his same fate. But this story indicates what the separation is from Jesus. If you are actually in hell, there's the separation because you can't reach him anymore. And I know that sounds strange, and anybody who's a Christian is going to say, just like he said, if you accept Jesus, why would there be an inability to reach him? That's his decision. That's what it says in the Bible. The story of the rich man says it all. You can't, once you get sentenced into that place, I'm not going to call it a place, that status, that state, once you get caught in there, there's no more contacting Jesus. And the worst part about it is that you can see him. So you realize that he's there, and you realize that God is real, and all the stories that are of the Bible are real. Not all of them, but the majority, the ones that talk about creationism and that type of thing. So there's your answer. I mean, I'm the one that brought that question up, so I thought maybe I should field it. I'm sorry about that.
Oh yeah, brother. Oops, I have a echo. Oh yeah, brother. The important thing is we have to respect everybody. That's the thing, as I said, according to the Christians, the Bible is the truth. According to the Vedics, the Vedas are the truth. According to the Jews, the Torah is the truth. So according to the natives, is the Wakan Tanka is the truth. So according for the Buddhist, the Buddha is the truth. For the Islamic, the Allah is the truth. So it's all different, and everybody is equally passionate with their own creation story, and that's their ultimate truth. And the most important part is that we should respect everybody and listen to everybody. And the important part is respect. Yeah, that's the thing, so because coexist. Yeah.
100%, Vikka. If that's all true, can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
Yeah, as we mentioned, if the cosmologies are the same, if the creation stories are very similar, so why there has to be any other difference? But yeah, as we spoke, this is...
because it's these guys in charge that created it. That's why.
Well, what about universal truth?
Exactly.
In other words, when you step on your car, you don't want the turn signal to come on or the lights to flash. When you step on the brake of the car, you want one thing to happen, and the only way that you're going to get that one thing to happen is to step on the brake. To me, that's universal truth.
Yeah, so, the thing is, the thing is, if we take the religion as a fanatic way or literally way, without respecting others and without trying to push, so what anybody's doing, be it any religion, is trying to get a promise of a life after the death, that we're gonna be reaching somewhere and we're gonna have a new life after we die, and we forget to live this life. This is what religion does if we take it in a literally fanatic way, right? So what we need to do is live this life, and not that what we think we're going to have once we die, when we do our things right in this life. I think that's the more important, because what is coming ahead, we don't know. That's our mind, what is making, and the way we are doing things, trying to prepare something that is coming ahead. What we have ahead is right here, right now. And that's where I think it's very important to coexist and respect everybody and understand and co-evolve together as a species, because in reality, we all, as a collective species, are one. Because if we want or not, we suffer, everybody suffers sooner or later. Okay? So, anyway, guys, we're going to be wrapping up for today. We'll have our last thoughts about the topic today, and we're going to be saying goodbye. So, who wants to go first?
I'd like to, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
As I said earlier, I've got some Norse in me, and I believe firmly in the Norse way of life. And it's a great thing to talk about because there's so many aspects of it. And as we saw by watching the show tonight, there's Misgardia, there's Asgard, there's just so many aspects of it. So I'd like to continue this conversation at a later date. That'd be great. One thing I'd like to say is that we haven't put out another show at Parrot Radio Live recently because we got canned for saying the wrong thing. One of my guests mentioned, well, I'm not going to say it, but you know what they mentioned.
Yeah.
And that was enough to get the whole thing. We're on our second strike now. So I want you to know we will be back. And thank you, Vikka, for having us on. What we need is some exposure, and you provided that for us tonight. We are Ferret Radio Live on YouTube, if you're wondering, and we are also ferlive.com. And that's it for me. And again, thanks, Vikka. Thanks, Gene. Thanks, Eddie. Great to see you guys again. And it was nice to meet you.
Hi, Rick. Great to see you too.
Hey, thank you, Rick, brother. People do check out Ferret Radio Live with Rick Lotek and Mark Hollander, Hoodwink Age. Yep, awesome channel, awesome show. Yeah, thank you, Rick, for being here.
My pleasure.
Who wants to go next?
I'll say good night, and I find it interesting how all the ancient cosmologies, but they all link with each other. They're so alike. So I'm looking forward to looking at the other cultures. And I'll say good night, everybody. Nice to be here also with Rick and Vikka, of course. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Nice.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Evelyn. Yeah, definitely we're gonna be, as you know, we did few cosmology. We're gonna be doing much more different ones too. Yeah, the idea is to look into everything. Okay, who's going next?
I'll say good night, I'll show right.
Let me go, Gene.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a very interesting topic. I came to the show not knowing much, and I'm leaving knowing a little bit more. And I definitely I'm going to be looking. I already saved some links here for me to be looking at. I will definitely watch Jack and the Beanstalk. I want to know why Jack killed the giant.
Jack the Giant Slayer.
Yeah, I want to know why he killed the giant because I read that story when I was a kid, so I definitely have to go back. So happy birthday, Vikka. Jeannie, it was a pleasure. Rick and Evelyn and everybody in the chat. It was a pleasure to be here today.
You too, brother.
Got the hate, brother. Got the hate.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you. See you next time, brother. Thanks.
See, that is a chicken I'm hearing.
That's why I'm muting the mic, because I can't even speak because all the chickens are going crazy. Yeah.
Celebrating your birthday, bro.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
All right, everybody. This was a great night for me. This is such an interesting part of the narrative going on that we don't see, that we should see, because we're looking at the wrong stars, and we've been taught that stuff. So this is a great version of this story that we're trying to unravel here together, guys. It was awesome to be here, Vikka, on your birthday. One more time, happy birthday, my brother, and thanks for the show. Eddie and Evelyn and Rick, it was awesome to see you guys. Rick, I haven't seen you in a long time. Sorry to hear about what happened. I was wondering maybe you can let us know in the chat later on what happened so we don't run into that inadvertently.
Right.
That'd be cool. Not sure what happened, but find out. So yeah, guys, we live in a world of duality, making choices. We all try to make the best ones. In the dark and light kind of shows up. Go for the light because we're going to be in the dark about things, right? These same people are telling the same story over and over. It makes me wonder about the year we're in, right? To talk about the timelines getting adding 1,000 years to it. They could have done it with 5 of these stories that are the same story. They just add timelines to it, and there goes time. Right. So just having fun thinking about the different ways the story's being told, and it's really great being here with everybody. Thanks to everybody in the chat too. It's good to see you guys, and hope you have fun. We'll see you next time.
Oh yeah, thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, brother. Yeah. And I hope these roosters did stop because it's 2 a.m. It's not even 4. Normally it's 4, but it's between with all the neighbors. So I hope they just for a few minutes so I can just wrap it up. Yeah. So thank you everybody for being here. And yeah, Norse cosmology, like any other different variation, amazing creation story too. The giants, and wow, very similar to different ones, even like Sumerians, and coming from the abyss, from the depths, and creating the world, and literally we have the whole groups where they speak about these giants being the part of the world. We see this pareidolia there. So yeah, looks like there's some kind of truth there, could be, to be dig into. Amazing. I love it. The 9 worlds, so different part of the realms, the whole tree from the center of the earth going all the way through the roots to the top of the trees, connecting the whole different worlds. This is amazing stuff. Yeah. And it's like any other, we're going to be discussing more different cosmologies here, so on Heliopsychosis podcast. And this is Dmitry Martinov, just became a member of this channel, Vikka, Draziv, Truth in Plain Sight. Thank you very much, Dmitry. Yeah, thank you, brother. And yeah, even there's Mark Hollander. Hey, brother, big shout out to you, Mark. Too. And yes, people. Oh yeah, and yes, people. It's all the same. It's all the same. Be it any. We're gonna be seeing that. We saw that in our previous podcast with the ones we discussed. We are gonna see the rest. We're gonna be discussing. So there is no difference. We are all the same.
That's right.
We all live under the same roof. Yeah. So there can't be any difference. So thank you everybody so much. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Evelyn. And thank you, Rick. And thank you everybody in the chat. Yeah. And thank you everybody for the birthday wishes. Amazing, awesome birthday. Yes. I had an amazing day with my family, and I'm finishing off with all my friends here as a party. Thank you everybody. Love you all. And see you guys in the next episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. Bye guys.
Yes. Till next
Bye,
time.
everybody.
Good night all.
Bye.
Join us again.
Astronauts to the moon.
Houston, we have a problem.